The government's moving forward with plans to reopen an immigration removal centre in the south of England. The Home Office plans to refurbish the Haslar IRC in Hampshire to house illegal migrants before they're removed from the UK. Building work has been delayed by asbestos, but it's currently scheduled to reopen by the end of this year. Rachel Mather has more now for LBC News.
IRC Haslar was shut down in 2015, but the government wants to bring it back into action this year with a potential capacity for up to 600 men. Dame Caroline Dinenage is the local Conservative MP.
I'd rather it had been sold off and used for something slightly more productive for the local economy. But the second choice would be reopening it. The plan at the moment is to only reopen it on the current footprint. There are aspirations to build more accommodation on the site, but at the moment it's 130, which is considerably less than the 180 that used to be housed there.
The centre isn't without its critics, though. An inspection shortly before it closed found it was fairly safe, but it also concluded some detainees were held for unreasonably long periods and weren't prepared for release. Professor Francis Pakes, an expert in criminology at the University of Portsmouth, has told us that's not unusual treatment for foreign prisoners.
Prisoners know that deportation may come next. To work really hard on rehabilitation, in a way, the system incentivizes that less because the people will not come back to our society, and that mindset runs the risk of creating a two-tier system, where our best efforts to improve them in some way while they're in prison would then be reserved to our domestic prisoners, while the foreigners are less driven by rehabilitation and more by simply punishment.
He visited Haslar before it closed and is worried about what could happen if the centre reopens.
When it was open, it was actually slightly worse than many prisons. I don't think that's entirely fair. If you're held by the state, you should, in a way, all suffer the same circumstances. If Haslar is reopened as an immigration removal centre or in a different sort of guise, fairness would require that the circumstances and the entitlements of people there are the same as anywhere else.
I put Professor Pakes' views to Caroline Dinenage, who defended the rebuild.
The quality of accommodation, sports facilities and health facilities is incredibly high quality. The reason it was shut down in the first place was because it's sort of quite an expensive part of the prison estate, but that they obviously feel that with overcrowding, a requirement to get it reopened.
The government has said it's committed to a fair and humane immigration policy, and the site will provide decent, safe and secure accommodation.
Rachel Mather reporting for LBC News.
An inquiry has heard that there were missed opportunities to stop a double murderer committing sex offences in hospital mortuaries in Kent. David Fuller was given a whole life jail order last year after he abused the bodies of more than 100 women and girls. Rachel Mather reports for LBC News.
The chairman of the hearing, Sir Jonathan Michael, has made 17 recommendations after serious failings were identified at the hospitals where David Fuller worked. The inquiry found if colleagues, managers and senior leaders had been more curious, the maintenance workers' opportunity to offend could have been reduced. Nevros Kamal is the mother of one of the victims. She still wants answers.
Absolute disgrace. It's bad enough losing your loved ones, but to then be told that they were abused in a mortuary over numerous occasions and it could have been prevented. I mean, where do you go with that? People describe it as unimaginable. It is, and unless you have experienced this, you will not know the unimaginable pain, the horror that accompanies you night and day and every day.
Among the recommendations made by Sir Jonathan is the installation of CCTV cameras in the mortuary and post-mortem room. He's also suggested staff and contractors should always be accompanied by another staff member when they visit the mortuary. He says it could prevent similar crimes happening at the Maidstone and Tunbridge Wells NHS Trust.
This is LBC News.
8:48 here on LBC News. A mother from Dorset has been telling us that this Christmas will be extra special this year as it is the first one her daughter will spend out of hospital. Our reporter Rachel Mather has more on this.
Roisin Butler's daughter Ayla is now a happy, thriving 1-year-old. But on Christmas Day last year, she was receiving chemotherapy in hospital.
At 4 months old, she was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. They didn't believe that she would even make it through that weekend. So it was very touch and go at the start. She did have a lot of battles while she was in hospital. She caught sepsis. She had reactions to medications. She received 40 blood transfusions, but has come out the other side now. We are almost at 1 year in remission.
It's thought more than 100,000 children across the UK will spend Christmas in hospital this year. Starlight is a charity that provides toys, games and panto performances for those on the wards. Laura Walsh has told us it's particularly difficult for parents to see their children sick during the festive period.
It's a time when you imagine families coming together, and to think that a child in the family is not going to be able to be at home is really hard. You want these moments with your family to be so magical and so worry-free. We can't cure that illness, but what we can do is make sure that things are as good as possible.
The charity was a vital support for Roisin last year. She's been telling us how Starlight made a difficult time just that little bit easier.
Christmas I thought about a lot during our time in there. I was really dreading it. I thought it was going to be miserable and I was going to feel incredibly isolated. However, Ayla received gifts, we received visits from Father Christmas, we had all this kind of magical things going on around us. For children, Christmas is supposed to be so magical, and that's not always possible when they're so unwell. So to bring a bit of normal life into the hospital, it lets them be children.
Roisin says this year her family will be raising a glass to 1 year chemo-free for little Ayla.
Let's take a look at the sports headlines this evening with Rachel Mather.
FIFA has banned former Spanish Football Federation president Luis Rubiales from all football-related activities for 3 years. He was forced to resign from the role last month for kissing midfielder Jenny Hermoso following the country's Women's World Cup final victory. She says it wasn't consensual. Rubiales, who denies any wrongdoing, is also facing criminal charges for his behaviour and says he's going to appeal the ban. Celtic midfielder Rio Hatate is unlikely to play again before Christmas. The Japan international suffered an injury in the first minute of last week's Champions League draw against Atletico Madrid. It's Hatate's second hamstring issue since the start of the season, and boss Brendan Rodgers admits it's a blow for him.
He's had a bit of a broken start to this season. It's very frustrating for him, especially someone who really commits himself to his game and everything he tries to do right.
Lionel Messi is the favourite to win his 8th Ballon d'Or trophy tonight after leading Argentina to glory at the World Cup last year. Manchester City's treble-winning striker Erling Haaland is one of his leading challengers for the award, which is given to the world's best footballer. Sam Burgess disagrees with those that are saying his appointment as Warrington's new head coach is a gamble. The dual-code England rugby international has become the youngest boss in Super League and has signed a 2-year deal with the Wolves. He's just 34 years old. And the fiancée of Adam Johnson, who was fatally injured while playing ice hockey for the Nottingham Panthers, has paid tribute to him. The American was cut on the neck by a skate during a game against the Sheffield Steelers in South Yorkshire on Saturday and later died in hospital. Rhianne Wolf has posted on social media, "I'll miss you forever and love you always." Police have opened an investigation into the incident.
That was Rachel Mather there with the sport. Let's get more on that story about Luis Rubiales, the former president of the